In this video, you'll be able to use Tailwind CSS from scratch. In another meaning, the .css killer. What does that mean? I don't know. In this beginner-friendly tutorial, you'll learn everything you need to know to build any website you can dream of. Also, I'll give you a task to build so you can make sure you understand. So stick to the end of this video. But first, hit that subscribe button to help me out and see more content like this. Firstly, what is Tailwind CSS? Basically, Tailwind CSS is a CSS framework that allows you to never leave your HTML files and write all your CSS with pre-built class names. But unlike Material UI, it doesn't give you UI components. If you need its version with a pre-built UI components, you need to install Tailwind UI, which is... The problem is, cheap developers like us never heard of it. But the good news though, it's not like any other framework. It's way more flexible than you think. Now, why should you use it? Because instead of writing this PS, you'll write this amazing code. See, it's so f***ing powerful. Now to install Tailwind CSS, head over to the official website, tap on Docs, and all you have to do is ignore this shit and click on Framework Installation. Since I am creating my project using Vite, I'll click on Vite, obviously. Now skip the first step and copy the first line of the second step. Now head over to VS Code, open your project folder and open the terminal, then write npm create Vite. Choose whatever the hell you're doing, I'll choose React, and choose whether it's TypeScript or JavaScript. This should take a couple seconds. Now run the command npm install, then npm run dev. If your project is okay, stop the application and run the command you copied from the website. After that, copy the second line and paste it in the terminal. Now get back to the docs and copy the config file. Usually you have to specify the routes of your application. For example, in Next.js 13, they added the app directory, so you have to add it like this: ./app/all the folders /all the files .all your file templates. In my case, it's JS, TS, and JSX and TSX. Now, copy the directives from the docs and paste it in your CSS file. In my case, it's index.css, and run your application again. Now, everything should work just fine. But how to use it? Because Tailwind CSS is not just random class names. It follows a specific logic when writing your class names. For example, if you want a padding left to be equal to 20 pixels, then first access the padding property by typing the letter P. After that, access the direction of your padding, which is in my case the letter L for left. Then write dash and add your value. There's a lot of default values you can choose here. For example, 10, which means 2.5 REM. But that's bullshit, cause it's not flexible, right? Well, don't worry, I got you with the next logic, which is the brackets. Add brackets instead of your value and write your value inside the brackets as it was a CSS file. For example, 20 pixel. Before getting deep into Tailwind CSS, there is an important extension you need to install. If you don't, then writing Tailwind will be 10 times harder. And search for Tailwind CSS and download the extension. This extension will let you know exactly what each class name does by hovering over it, as you can see here. And it'll give you autocomplete if you got stuck or forgot anything. Now let's start by knowing how to deal with flexbox. To specify an element as a flex, all you have to do is write flex. This means exactly like this. Now to justify it to the center, just type justify center. Now to align items center, do the same thing. Items center. Now you know how to flex. It's time for me to show you the padding and margin. Access the margin using the letter M, then dash and write down your value. If you need, you can also specify the direction by writing the first letter of the direction after the M, which for example ML-10 for margin left. Also, you can use the X and Y properties, and the same whole thing for padding. Write relative for position relative, and write absolute for position absolute. The rest is the same. Now, for font weight, you can just type font dash then the value, for example bolder, which also could be specified by brackets. Basically everything could be specified by brackets. Now for the font size, write text and specify the value, for example LG, which means large. Now to edit the text color, do the same thing as you did for the font size, which is writing text then the color. For example red-500. Write BG to access the background property. Then you can specify anything. For example PG-blue-700 or BG cover, which means background size. Also, we'll talk about the gradient background later in this video. To access the hover and focus properties, just type hover followed by column. Then write whatever you want to happen after the hover. For example, hover margin left equals 200 pixels. Now to make a gradient background, first specify the direction of the gradient. You can do that by simply writing pg-gradient-2 followed by the direction, which could be L for left, R for right, T for top, and B for bottom. After that, you want to specify the from and to colors. For example, I want it to be from cyan 500 to red 800, and that'll make the background work just fine. Now for the responsive design. To access the min width of 640 pixels, just write small, which is SM, followed by what you need to do on a small screens. And the same thing goes for medium, large, X large, and 2X large. Now an important point we need to stop on, and that's Tailwind is mobile first. Didn't get it, right? Well, let me explain. If you had a div and you need to make its width 200 pixels for mobile devices and 200 pixels for tablets and above, you'll have to write width equals 200 pixels, on small devices width equals to 400 pixels. That means anything above the small screen is going to be 400 pixels, and anything lower than that will be the default value, which is 200 pixels. Hope that made sense. If not, rewatch this part. Now, of course, I can't cover the whole framework in this one video, so if you ever needed anything and you don't know how to write it, just head over to the Tailwind CSS website and click the search bar, then search for any CSS property, then the website will let you know how to write it in Tailwind CSS. I think it's time for us to start implementing what we've learned. Open up your VS Code and code along with me. First, create a container div, which has 3 more divs inside of it. Now to achieve this sucks looking shapes, give the first div the flex property. Now to center all the divs inside of it, give it justify center, align items center. Now give it high equals to screen, give it BG gradient to left, then from cyan 500 to red 800. Now let's style them a bit. Give each one a padding of 14 pixels and a BG red 500. It looks a lot better. Now let's give the middle one a margin X equals 20. After that, let's animate them. Give all of them a transition all class name. That will make the animation smoother. Now for the first one, I'll give it on hover the background equals to white, and on hover the padding X equals to 20. Now on hover the text is gonna be black. After that, apply the same thing for all the divs, but with different padding values. And here you go, you made your first simple app using Tailwind CSS. Hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.